Over the last 10 years, our public body spent over 100 billion of our money on the purchasing of their goods and services.
Until now, this money has quite often been spent with little regard for the environment. Buying fossil fuels for poorly insulated buildings may have made short-term economic sense when oil was cheap, but no longer. One fireman in North Dublin has become world famous by challenging the system and completely revolutionising how public money is spent. Today, we're on a journey to discover if Ireland's whole public sector can learn from the example of one fireman and save us all a fortune. It's 7 a.m. and A-Watch in Delta District is starting its shift. And I'm here to meet the man who won the title of International Green Hero, firefighter Neil McCabe.
Just over 5 years ago, I had this crazy idea. What if this fire station could become carbon neutral, and I could demonstrate to everybody and show everyone how easy it would be for me to achieve that status, that perhaps we could take just even small actions to reduce energy consumption across the entire fire brigade. So my whole story starts with this plan of what if this fire station was to become carbon neutral.
Carbon neutral means the station's CO2 emissions and energy demand have been reduced to almost zero. In 2008, Kilbarrack Fire Station's total running costs for energy, water and waste was €50,000 per year, mostly spent on energy. Its annual bill for heat and power has now been reduced by 95% to a staggering 5% of its 2008 demand.
So you've come from sorting out batteries and recycling batteries to transforming this 45-year-old fire station into zero carbon.
Correct. So we took many actions to reduce the energy consumption, small little low-hanging fruit options that I could present to management. We've saved money by our own actions. We've reduced the lowering costs of the fire station. We haven't asked for money, so now I think it's time you could help us and actually invest in the refurbishment of this fire station, which gives everyone a lift, which motivated everybody and made us all enthused to take on the next set of projects. And I had lots of projects.
Neil has retrofitted insulation to the roof and walls, installed energy-efficient windows and achieved air tightness for the entire building. He switched to an energy-efficient condensing boiler and made use of solar collectors for hot water.
Now, how much are you saving in water here, by the way? Because obviously, fire station has to pay for water.
Yeah, well, at the moment per year, we're saving, compared to when we started the Green Plan, we're now saving 1.6 million litres of water a year. So we're saving more than 90% of the water of this fire station.
Hold on. Say that again.
We're saving more than 90%, which is 1.6 million litres of water a year, and we tackle local fires with that water.
You've brought your water consumption down to 10%.
That's correct, yes.
That is incredible.
Neil built a rainwater harvesting system that saves €4,000 a year on water bills. He's reduced their electricity costs by fitting LED lighting and generates renewable electricity with micro-wind turbines for the remainder of their energy needs.
With such a small kilowatt-hour consumption from the station's energy demand, we actually make that up and a lot more from the turbines.
Right.
And we send our energy as an export back into the grid. I can even tell you it goes into this estate beside us.
Right, really? So in other words,
fire station.
So you're zero in electricity here?
Correct, yeah. We've reduced our energy lighting bill by €12,000 in 1 year alone, just by switching to LED and clever controls.
So how much is your heating bill now?
€600.
€600
yes,
per year?
Per year, yes.
And it was 26,000?
6,861.
I am shocked.
Yeah.
And is that for just space heating, or is it for
it's
domestic hot
for
water?
Space and hot water.
You've managed to do that?
So it's completely plummeted. In fact, our thermodynamic panels make so much hot water that we had to introduce a blending valve to just cool down the amount of hot water that was leaving the system.
Right.
The overall cost of greening the fire station was €160,000. That saves €48,000 a year. In just 3.5 years, he's already paid back all his green investments and is using this money to upgrade neighbouring fire stations. Neil converted the fire station grounds into a community garden where retired firemen and local community get together to grow some of their own food. Neil has done all of this in his spare time while working as a fireman full-time. Neil tells me that over 50% of these savings are due to its 40 firefighters and their commitment to the Green Plan.
Everybody has played their small part.
And you feel proud about it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you feel you're part of the local community?
Yeah, absolutely. From people passing by that are interested in what's going on in the station, to school trips, school visits coming in. To be able to tell them we're the first carbon neutral station in the world is an achievement in itself, you know.
And are you proud of that, David?
It's a nice atmosphere and a nice place to work in now.
What really impresses me about Neil's story is that if one man with a small team of firefighters can make such a massive change to a fire station, then there must be huge opportunities within the public service to tackle waste and inefficiencies.
Public procurement is the public purchasing of everything from renting buildings, construction, energy, transport, public vehicles, machinery, IT, food, paper, furniture, and even consultancy fees. Schools, hospitals, local authorities, and most public buildings are spending our money on buying products that often harm the environment and the local economy. Green public procurement is when goods and services are bought with a lifetime approach that takes a long-term view.
Last year, the public service spent $9 billion on goods and services. Of that, $600 million was spent on energy, and 90% of this was imports of oil, gas and coal.
I talked to Dr. John Barry from the Centre of Progressive Economics to try and get an idea of the scale of the opportunities that we're wasting.
And how do you feel about us importing 90% of our energy, oil, gas and coal?
Well, I think it's very simple. It's ecologically irrational in terms of its fossil fuel for a start, but actually it increases our energy insecurity. It means we are at the whim of world markets and wholesale markets in terms of gas and oil. And I think the sooner we move away from this energy dependence towards energy security through sourcing more of our electricity and home heating and so on in terms of locally produced renewable energy sources, the better. So it makes economic sense in terms of energy security.
If our economists continue on this, where are we going in this country?
Where we're headed now is off a cliff in terms of spiking energy prices, increasing environmental degradation, increasing levels of energy dependence and energy insecurity, and locking us into a model which really is meaning that we are going to pay more and more of a proportion of our household or indeed our national budget on importing energy. It's simply economically as well as ecologically irrational to continue this model. In short, for the 21st century, our economic system at the moment is unfit for purpose. It is simply unsustainable and cannot continue.
Targeting the €600 million the public sector spends on imported fossil fuels would be an obvious start. There's a huge opportunity for this money to be used as a catalyst for change. The public sector have binding targets to reduce energy use by 33% by 2020. Some public bodies are performing poorly, but North Tip County Council are an example of how local people are leading the way.
We have a 33% target to meet by 2020, yes. And you must be well on the way.
We're almost there. We think that this year we will be at our target 7 years ahead of the 2020 deadline.
I want to discover how they achieved energy savings across many of their public services. Typically, up to 60% of local authorities' energy demand is spent on water services. A large portion of this energy is wasted through leaky pipes and inefficient pumps. So I start my journey at Coolbone Drinking Water Plant on the banks of Lough Derg, where I met engineer Jim Maguire.
So Jim, all of that saving on water, waste of water, that must be massive in terms of money saving.
It has been a great help because every euro we save on the reduction of waste has been reinvested then into upgrading our equipment. And we have done that with upgrading pump sets in different places. In one place we had a 53% efficiency on the pump. We replaced it with a pump which is almost 80%. So that creating more savings and a very short payback time in each of these things. So that's the way we're proceeding, bit by bit, using energy audits to identify where the biggest savings can be made quickly and focus spending then on those areas to upgrade the systems.
Another project the Council is working on is retrofitting social housing. Irish social housing performs to very poor energy standards, hemorrhaging heat and money. The cost of this nationally is €465 million a year in fuel allowance and energy subsidies. All these buildings could be insulated at a fraction of the long-term heating cost.
So the houses around you here are in an area called St. Joseph's Park, and they're mass concrete houses. So we've done a lot of studies that really have detailed that if a house is very hard to heat, people won't. And they'll end up cold, and they'll end up sicker, and they'll end up in I suppose poor housing is the right word to call it.
So typically what have you done now to each house?
We have installed a lot of attic insulation, cavity wall insulation where it can be done, and a lot of wood stoves. So really trying to get the whole shift from carbon-based heating to wood-based heating. Log stoves can switch very quickly, cost-effective, cheap to buy, and supports local jobs. So there's about 5,000 houses in total in Tipperary, about 4,500 local authority-owned houses. So we're about halfway there in terms of retrofit. And we hope to be there by 2015, about 18 months' time.
Any idea of what sort of jobs that's being created by the retrofits, first of all, and then by the switching to local fuel? What sort of jobs are you getting out of that?
So this year I estimate in the retrofit, it's roughly about 50 full-time equivalent jobs, 50 job years, I suppose, for the retrofit that we've done this year. And we would hope to continue that for the next number of years. And we're hoping that this, as an example of the public sector leading by example, will stimulate the private sector to also come along and I suppose, increase the amount of retrofit that's happening.
Well, I mean, look at all the benefits. People are saved, money is being saved for people, less energy costs, more comfort. Then you've got less imports of fuel, less carbon emissions, and now jobs. There's a huge amount of benefits in what you're saying.
You know, if you can increase the interior temperature of a house, you significantly decrease the amount of respiratory illness, particularly in a cold, damp climate like the Irish climate. So we would hope that those knock-on benefits will also help in terms of people's health and well-being and healthcare costs.
Another project the Council has completed is retrofitting their 4 swimming pools, where they've switched from extensive and carbon-intensive oil heating to locally sourced wood chip, which has reduced their heating bill by half.
So that's a model for other local authorities, isn't it?
I would hope so.
Yeah, and you've done now the simple things.
Yes.
What's your next step?
We're now going to move on to the more difficult projects like photovoltaic panels and public lighting, I suppose, is a big one that we want to move into now very shortly.
Besides local authorities, schools and university campuses are also in the public sector. And LIT Thurles has made huge improvements in energy.
So the first thing was get down our energy demand, and that brought along energy savings and cost. Really, energy efficiency is the cheap savings to get. You know, get those savings first. But when we had finished our energy efficiency activities, we looked at supplying our heating from renewable energy.
So how does that benefit now the local community?
Well, the first thing is we're clearly demonstrating that we're walking the walk. We're reducing our energy costs. We're able to integrate the system into the education system. There are jobs transporting the wood fuel here. There are jobs for maintaining the system. And that 30,000 euros that we would have spent on oil that was leaving the country is now reinvested in LIT as an academic organisation in different aspects of what we do.
The individual examples we've seen so far in the programme have been inspirational, and they clearly show how much we can do if we just decide to take real action.
I asked John what it would take to make the shift from pools of local excellence to a real national green economy.
John, is the public sector in Ireland transforming to a green economy? And are we looking to the future in terms of the big challenges facing us?
Well, I think to be generous, it's extremely patchy. There are some good examples, particularly local authorities or particular public agencies doing very good work in terms of experiments in low carbon, renewable energy, local purchasing and so on. But I think on a whole, we seem to lack a very strong strategic drive on behalf of central government in terms of moving us on to using the public purse, which is public money, tax money, in terms of pump priming the green economy and creating markets for low carbon, locally produced, sustainably produced goods and services.
And why are we like this? Why are we so slow to engage in all of this?
A lack of integration of issues of energy and issues of resources into the way in which public decisions are made in terms of spending money. But also I think it's because, for example, there was more latitude given to local authorities in their public procurement strategies. But in 2011, this became then removed from them, and is now there's a national public procurement, which I think has removed that flexibility that local authorities, for example, had in terms of buying greener local goods and services. The way out of the crisis, in my view, is for a Green New Deal, to retool our economy onto a low-carbon infrastructure and using public money, public procurement, as a way of pump priming and leading that.
The EU Directive on Green Public Procurement has been in place since 2004. So far, Ireland's implementation of this has been almost non-existent, while many other countries race ahead. Because of Austria's commitment to green public procurement, their green tech industry has flourished, and they're now a huge exporter of green technology. This business is worth €8.2 billion per year, with €6 billion now coming from green tech exports. I met Eva Maria Percy on a recent visit to Vienna and asked her how Austria had managed to get so far ahead.
Well, the city of Vienna each year spends about €5 billion to buy products and services. And what we do, we try to focus on buying green products. And we want to show our citizens this is possible and it's good for the environment, and that they also follow our example and do this as well. Austria is a small country, and if you specialize on green products and services, and this is now, I think, a trend of our time, that even more and other countries will ask for green products, then they will be able to expand and have the market everywhere.
Vienna is using its massive buying power to send a strong signal to producers and to the supply chain to change the way they're producing products. It also educates local communities to embrace environmental issues that get ignored in economies like ours.
But what I cannot understand, that in other countries, they don't see the chance. It's such a powerful instrument. If you have public money to spend, and it's so easy to do green public procurement, why not to do it? The European Commission provides green public procurement criteria. You can go to their webpage and just copy and paste it.
And have you set targets now to 2050 for all of this in terms of where you're going?
Well, we have targets for clean air and waste separation and so on. And green procurement is an instrument to help us to reach these targets.
How do you deal with the problem that, say, like in Ireland at the moment, we've got a huge financial problem, and hospitals, schools all have very restricted spending at the moment. How do you overcome that problem where there's very little capital available to invest now in green products that might be that little bit more expensive?
Well, I think it's just that we say we want this because we think it's such a good thing, and it will save us money within a short time period. Sometimes it's only some weeks or months, and then you start to save money.
What do you say to people in Ireland that say, oh, well, Ireland is too small. We're very small. We're only 1% of the European Union, for example, and we're tiny in world terms. So why would it matter if we create greenhouse gas emissions and go on with the way we live at the moment? What would you say to that as an Austrian about another part of Europe?
I would say to them, we are even smaller. We are only a city. We are not even a country.
Right, so you have to act.
You have to act like your fireman. It's up to us. Single people can achieve a lot.
Do you think we have an important role to play?
Yes, because it's a win-win situation. It's easy to do, and it's all there. You just have to take it and use it.
As we've seen from Austria and Tipperary, a strong commitment from the public sector is one of the keys to making this happen. I asked John Barry if we're doing enough.
Is the public sector leading it all in this area?
I don't think so, and yet the potentials are there. Because we're so far behind, there's actually an advantage in that we can look around Europe as a society and say, well, where's the best in terms of public procurement using the public money to pump prime and create markets for green goods and services? But I don't really see any determined leadership in terms of the entire government system getting behind the transition to a low-carbon green economy.
And what's the advantage of doing that?
Those who make the first mover, transition now to a low carbon basis for their economy, like China, for example, we're going to be playing catch up if we don't start moving into the green economy. I mean, there's tremendous investment opportunities, jobs, non-outsourceable jobs, ways of meeting our climate change targets, and so on. It is a win-win-win in terms of moving to a green economy. And the whole issue here is how do we plan for an orderly transition to what I would say is the inevitable. I mean, it's up there now, as far as I'm concerned, with death and taxes, is the inevitable transition to a low-carbon economy. Do we want Europe to make us do it through directives? Do we want to start buying in the low-carbon technologies from the likes of China? Or do we want to actually say, no, we can take control of our own fate economically and start moving into this independently and being a leader as opposed to being a laggard in making this transition to a low-carbon economy?
Are we thinking too much on a short term? Is there too much of an emphasis on the quick, sudden reaction to a problem and not the bigger picture?
Yes, I mean, unfortunately, both our economic and political systems work on a timescale which are not in accordance with ecological and biophysical realities of the planet. From an orthodox economics point of view, it's every quarter. That's every 3 months you have to have a decision in terms of your shareholder value increasing and so on. For politicians, it's the next election, a couple of years. But nobody's thinking of future generations. No one's thinking about 20, 30 years ahead. There is an extreme lack of long-term thinking in the contemporary political and indeed the economic system.
Why is it not happening, Paul, typically? Is it us as citizens not making enough demands? It's our money that's being spent. You know, where's the problem?
On a personal level, across the whole of Irish society, we have not engaged with energy, with climate change, like in Germany, like in Sweden, like in Denmark, where they're light years ahead of us because they've engaged, and the population demands their politicians to really invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency. Whereas in Ireland, it's not known, it's not talked about, it's not rewarded, a politician won't get elected for a good policy on climate change, period.
Is it in the city? Yeah. Right. And how many ambulances do you have here? One ambulance. Okay. Right. Neil, this is your green plan in action here in Blanchardstown. Tell us about it.
It's a fully functional, operational, open fire station, and in a sense it's having open heart surgery.
Right.
Because what we've done is we are renovating, refurbing, rebuilding in places, and the whole project is retrofitting to this station to accept new renewable technologies and to become extremely energy efficient and make lots of savings which you can spend on the next fire station.
So you're really going to take this project now and transform this building for the 21st century. Where are you going to fund all of this?
It's a very exciting project, Duncan, and the financing for this project has come from a ring-fenced savings fund created using energy savings in the other fire stations that I've installed the Green Plan and Green Plan projects in. And it's built up this savings fund where I can fully invest in this station and the one in Finglas and literally change them from an old 40-odd-year-old building into what they're about to become.
Neil has proved that a real green strategy can save a fortune. He's taken the €48,000 he saved in Kilbarrack and transformed neighbouring fire stations with it, saving a staggering €5 million in 6 years in a number of Dublin fire stations.
All those actions combined can not just get us to 2020 and reduce our emissions and our energy consumption, but they can take us way further than that and past this roadmap to 2050. We can travel a lot further, and we can all start here with a grassroots proven project.
Right.
Over the next decade, our public bodies are quite likely to spend upwards of a staggering €90 billion of our money making purchases in the public sector. The question is, how do we use that massive buying power to leverage the change we want in our society so that we can flourish into the future?